In a world where Tennessee and LA are division leaders and Denver and Green Bay are at the bottom, who knows anything about anything? Oh hi, it's your old pal Dalby back for week number 10 in the NFL. Make sure that after this video or at any time during the video, you look in the description down below to find all the links that you're going to need to get the lines, the spreads, the game list, so you can make your own ticket and play along from home. Week 9 was another perfect example that without a real quarterback under center, your team is screwed. Houston was on a roll this season with Deshaun Watson, but you insert Tom Savage into that situation and you end up with 4 shots from the 7-yard line to win the game and end up fumbling the ball on the 17-yard line on that 4th shot. This probably goes without saying at this point, but Houston is a no-fly zone for the rest of the season. And that applies for other teams that have lost their quarterbacks. I mean, right now, Arizona's hard to get behind with no Carson Palmer. You look over in Green Bay, Brett Hundley, maybe in the future, but right now, I probably wouldn't. But as weird as some of the games were in week number 9, if you watched this video last week, you probably made some money, or at least came real close. It was a 2-1 week on Pro Line, should have been 3-0 if Carolina had just kicked that field goal at the dying seconds. I know it meant nothing to the game itself. I know they would have gotten it for running up the score, but I would have won more money. Against the spread, though, it was a 3-0 week last week. And on Pools Picks from the video, 7-2. For all of week 9 straight up, it was 9-4, and that puts me to 86-46 for the entire season. Remember, if you want to see all those straight up picks, especially in games that I don't mention in this video, follow me on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram, where I share them all out on game day. By the way, that 86-46 puts me in the top 5 amongst 113 different experts as listed on NFLPickWatch.com. All right, we got 14 games to pick from this week, so let's get right into it. Remember Tampa? The season got off to a weird start. What with their first week game in Miami being canceled because of Hurricane Irma, which totally makes sense, but then they came out week number 2, the home opener, looked good, beating up on the Bears, still had a few shaky things, but most people, myself included, just wrote it off to it really being their first game of the season. Since then, though, the only other game they've won was against the G-Men, not something that a lot of people are bragging about this year. And it's not like the teams that are beating them are all great teams. They've lost some games they really should have won. Jameis Winston, a quarterback, has had his ups and downs on the field, off the field, injury-wise, just with his throwing mechanics, and now he's not going to be around for maybe a couple weeks. Like we talked about at the top of the video, if you're playing without your starting quarterback, that's pretty much a death sentence. There's no Tom Brady sitting on the bench waiting for Drew Bledsoe to go down in the NFL this year. Enter Ryan Fitzpatrick, not a man that I'm willing to put a whole lot of money on in the best of situations. This is not the best of situations. Meanwhile, in New York, they're still at the bottom of the AFC East, which is kind of where you're used to seeing them. But it's not the same old story. They snapped a 3-game losing streak by demolishing Buffalo on national television on a Thursday. Now they've got the long week to get them repaired and prepared for this game against Tampa. The spread has them giving up 2.5, and if Tampa was playing the way that they should be, I would absolutely not be giving up those points. But against this Tampa Bay, I'll give up 2.5 because I like them to win by 4, maybe 7. I'd even go as high as 10 if this game goes really well according to their game plan. So I'm taking them on every kind of ticket. You've got to give some credit to Washington. They started their game on Sunday against Seattle in Seattle, giving up a safety. They ended that game by driving all the way down the field against the Legion of Boom and scoring a game-winning touchdown. Along the way, they had their struggles on offense, but overall, things went about as well as they could have hoped because they won the game. Now, this was helped by Seattle taking 16 penalties for over 130 yards throughout the game. Odds are, this week, Minnesota going to be much more disciplined. While Seattle ranks down at the bottom of the NFL in penalties taken, Minnesota is in the top 5. If you're going to get yards against Minnesota, you're going to earn them. They're not handing them over to you. More concerning for Washington than penalty yardage has to be the safety of Kirk Cousins. Seattle got to Kirk 6 times in that game, and Minnesota kind of a team right now that's known for abusing quarterbacks. Just ask Aaron Rodgers. That Minnesota front 7 is relentless, and I feel like by the end of this game, Kirk Cousins is going to be very familiar with the cloud formations above FedEx Field. The spread is just half a point being given up by Minnesota going to Washington, and I feel like that's kind of a steal in this one. I think Minnesota's defense will cover that spread. Case Keenum, not the greatest quarterback in the league. He'll do enough to help the defense win the game. While watching the G-Men take on LA this past Sunday, a couple things stood out about the game. One, LA's offense is for real. They chew up the field, they move in the right direction, and they put points up like crazy. 51 of them to be exact against New York. Other one was, despite how star-crossed this New York team is with so many of their starters on the IR, especially all of their nameable wide receivers, they still managed to move the ball. Eli Manning still managed to get it out. The O-line managed to give him some protection, and these random people were hauling it in while wearing New York jerseys, and that is an interesting sign because a lot of people had, myself included, just written off New York and saying, who's going to score points for the rest of the season? Now, LA has not exactly been praised for their defense this season, as evidenced from the fact that they keep putting up points but still winning close games. But that said, they're still better than San Francisco's defense. If New York can get the ball upfield against LA, they should almost certainly be able to do it against San Fran. Now, obviously, New York's defense is not great either, but New York's defense has to stop CJ Beathard and San Francisco's offense, which, as we saw last week, not great. And the 2 weeks before that, San Francisco got blown out by much better teams than New York, mind you, but nonetheless, this is a team that's struggling, so New York's defense not being good is not going to be enough for San Francisco to suddenly put up 40 points. Suffering will continue in the Bay Area, and history is actually on my side in this one. The road team in the last 4 meetings between these two has won against the spread every single time. This time around, the road team is New York. And speaking of New York, they are 4-1 against the spread against San Francisco in their last 5 meetings. So everything leads to me saying I'm going to give up half a point, which is basically a pick'em, and I'm going to take New York to win this one, probably on Pro Line as well. All right, pools time. We got more games this week, so we've got to really make sure that we're hitting as many of them as we can because all the winners on Sports Select Pools this year have had perfect tickets. At home, give me Chicago, Detroit, and not St. Louis. And on the road, I'll take New Orleans, Pittsburgh, and New England. And that's who I got for this week. Who do you got? Leave it in the comments down below wherever you're watching this video. I would love to know. You can tweet at me, comment on Instagram, and don't forget to watch for my picks for the rest of the games of week number 10 straight up, coming to you on social media very, very shortly after this video goes live. I am your old pal Dalby. Don't forget to hit the description down below for the links. Make your own ticket and let me know how you do when it comes to Sunday. I will see you right back here. So make sure you subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and I'll see you for week 11.
If you want to make sure that you're getting all the lines, spreads, and game lists before anybody else, you got to be an MVP. Follow the link in the description of this video to sign up with WCLC to get alerts, notifications, and emails directly to you with everything that you need to play.